want to show you a few things about how easy it is to take an existing tree and improve it with the same sort of philosophy that I've spoken about here. So we'll just stick this over there. You can come and have a look at that later on if you want. Just see how hard I've butchered it compared to the rest of the tree. Now, widen the pot back. So I always widen my trees in the pot for a number of reasons. One of them so I can pick them up by the trunk line without the pot falling out and breaking. Because if you had a pot like this one here, this is a Japanese pot, and it fell out and broke on the ground, you'd be upset with yourself. Because they're expensive and hard to find as well. Now, this is Shimpoko juniper. This is the, apart from the needle juniper, it's one of the more widely known trees for bonsai culture. And it was probably one of the trees that made bonsai on the map, particularly when movies like The Karate Kid came out. All the trees in the movie were these types of trees that people saw and I guess associated with bonsai as such. Now this is a fairly old tree, it's a twin trunk tree, and it's just something that's been growing that I haven't given a lot of TLC to, I guess, as such. And I thought it'd be a great opportunity to show how easy it is to take a tree that's moderate, mediocre like this, and try and turn it into something a little bit more established, a bit more reminiscent of what a bonsai tree is. So I'm trying to make the tree look old in the pot. So the whole idea is I want to make the tree look old in the pot. And you see if you look around it, it's not a young tree. It's quite an old juniper. Been in my care for quite a number of years. I've done some preliminary work on it, just to prepare it for what I'm going to do to it tonight as well. I've put a wire on the second trunk, and I've torn the second trunk back up into the trunk because it was one trunk here and the other one over here. So I want to bring the tree into the other tree. I want the two of them to mimic each other as much as possible, but I want to reduce the physical volume of foliage. Remove branches that really shouldn't or are past their welcome, and actually wire up the tree and thin out the foliage pads. You can see there's still foliage on the ends, but there still could be thinned down, and just hopefully make the tree look older than what it really is. And add to the reason. You can also show you how easy it is if you've got a tree like this in your own collection, just to refine it, take it maybe to a step that's a little bit more above what it might have been as such. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some decisions fairly quickly about what I do and what I don't want to keep. What branches are going to add to the composition, and what branches are going to detract from the composition as such. So it's about having a look through the tree and running through my head what works for the tree, what will keep the tree looking good and what won't keep the tree looking good. So it's about the future of the tree as well, and what do I envision the tree being. I envision the tree being here, nice and tight in here, nothing in here. So nothing in this part of the tree in here because it would be shaded by this part of the tree. Limited foliage in here, kept short, branches wide down to make it look older than what it really is now. So the volume on here is too great. There's far too many branches on this composition for a refined, aged old bonsai tree. So I want to remove the physical detraction to your eye, which is the foliage. Because at the moment your eye's following the foliage. There's so much foliage on the tree, your eye's following where the foliage is. It's following some lines that perhaps I don't want you to follow. Roots running in the wrong direction, etc., etc., etc. So I want to actually take the focus off the foliage and put the focus back onto the structure of the branch itself. So I want to work out what I do want to keep and what I don't want to keep, and then what am I going to do with the branches that I don't want to keep. So very quickly I'm going to look at branches that could be white or, in my opinion, not worth wiring, that are hanging straight down. So I've got branches, easy branches like this, that are no-brainers, that are hanging down that can quickly be taken care of in here. So there's things like that where you can go, but when we get to the tufts of the foliage, I'll talk about the philosophy, because the philosophy with the tufts of these is exactly the same as what we spoke about with the juniper. It's about looking for the horizontal and not the vertical growth as such. So it's about saying, okay, I want the eye on the tree, but I don't want too much volume to take your eye away from what I want. So I'm looking at major branches that I think could quite easily go and be taken away. So I want your eye on the trunks. I want you to follow the trunk and nothing else. I want your eye not to follow too much of the root system, because the root system is not very good. So I want you to look at the trunk and follow the trunk line. At the moment, there's a few things taking your eye away from the trunk line, like the foliage, certain branches in certain positions. One easy way to take your eye onto the foliage trunk line, I should say, on the second trunk, is to remove a branch right at the front here that's taking your eye off. Okay? Just by taking a bit of foliage volume off, your eye starts to follow the trunk now in preference to where that branch was sitting out the front here and actually taking your eye to it. So your eye will follow that. Now you remove that, you start to see a trunk line. So your eye starts to just follow the trunk line. I still want you to follow the trunk line. I've got to get rid of volume, particularly volume that's overpowering the whole composition as a whole. And this back branch here is far too powerful and actually could quite easily be taken off and actually change the line of your eye. So if I take the branch back in here, take your eye away from this. This branch will not be here when I'm finished. I'm going to gin it, maybe wire it, shape the gin. If it works for me, I'll leave it on there. I'm taking the whole branch off now, and I'm just trying to start to make you focus on the trunk line and the balance of the actual foliage itself. So I'm just looking at what can work, what can't work as such. So it's about where can I put branches that they'll actually work for us as well. There's some dead wood in here too that I can take this opportunity to get rid of as such. You can see here I'm slowly, and all I've done is just taken off the visual weight, which is what your eye's following at the moment, and I'm starting to get you to follow the trunk line. So now you're already starting to follow the trunk line now at the second tree, because I've taken a lot of the visual weight that's, I guess, is where your eye's tracking at the moment. So then I want to look at where's foliage growing that I don't want it. Anything that's growing straight down, that's really noticeable, I'm going to get rid of fairly quickly. Anything that's growing in the wrong direction, I'm going to look to get rid of. So if it's going straight up, so big pieces on the branch that I don't really want to focus on, that was going straight up, I'll take them off straight away because I want to, I guess, reduce your physical weight and the suggestion of where the branches are going. I also need to reduce some of the branches too because they're quite heavy and powerful. And I need to look at ways to remove where your eye's following. So I'm just going to take some calculated cuts here and there, just to slowly remove some of the visual weight, which is, and they're not major cuts or anything, but they're detractions to the eye. Okay. Just slowly reducing excessive foliage. I'm looking for opportunities too to leave branches where I can gin it. You see here it's going straight down. There's not much on the tip of it, and this is typical of junipers that are great. They just fork off and they can run off like this and they can run off like that. So this is just growing underneath. You want to put wire on it and concentrate on these rather than the third one underneath. So I'm just looking for any branching now that's got too much coming out of it, particularly too much up top, or too much going straight down, that I can quickly remove it. It's no good for the wire itself. See, all I've done is just thinned it out, taken off branches that are too heavy or that are cluttering up the design. So the trick to do now with something like this is to look at what can and can't be wired as far as quick, easy fixes on the tree itself. So thinning out the branches and then starting to look at trying to wire them in such a way that you achieve what you want as such. And also bending the tree in such a way that I can create the separation where I want it as well. And then opportunities to jig the tree itself as well. Jigging is quite simple. I'll show you how I do it. There's a branch at the back. I'm going to ring bark it where the bark hits the whole tree. So I'm not cutting and snapping off that thing. I'm taking a ring right back to the heartwood. Okay, around here. So I'm just cutting the low bark here to where I want the jig to finish. Okay, and then I'm going to get the pair of jigging pliers and normal pliers like this, and I'm just going to crush the canyon and the bark like that. And on the whole, it starts to just break off. So you can actually use special jigging pliers to get in there. You can actually take the bark off that way. You can use all sorts of jigging tools as well. There's all sorts of jigging tools that you can use, carving tools and things like that work very well as well. Taking off bark like this. So what's happening is the bark will separate from the branch because I'm crushing it.
Does that damage the look at all once you've crushed it?
Yes. This will be able to foliage off. I want to ensure that no sap goes to that branch. I'm actually killing the whole branch off as such. And I want to
What's the difference between like just carving off the actual slicing of? Is this faster or?
Both ways work just as well. This is the carving tool you were just referring to, which is like a little scythe. And there are many different tools you can get, and all it will do is, if used gently, is it actually will carve off, slices the bark off there. And you would use this in your preference to creating the finished effect of the gin itself. So creating the actual movement and actually creating the line that you want it to do. So generally, when you crush off the bark, it'll be a beautiful cylinder surface. That's what the heartwood is. And you need to then obviously start trimming that surface and get some movement in the surface. And take that cylinder look away, because gin is the weather effect on a branch. So you get movement through a gin, you get hollowing, you get rot, you get all sorts of effects on a gin. So gins are not normally smooth and beautiful. They're actually quite battered by the elements, and they do move around quite a lot, and you get beautiful effects in gins, particularly movement. But don't forget, you can also create movement with wire. You can wire this gin quite easily with wire and actually put some shape in the branch and see what it's like to work through it. What you would do when you get home is you paint this gin or this newly created dead wood with lime sulphur, neat from the actual bottle, which will help preserve it and stop it rotting too much. It smells like crazy, but it'll actually turn it white as well. So it'll actually start white the actual gin itself and make it just a little bit more realistic of what a gin will be on a branch. Now, you can see here all I've done is just take it off, the bark off there as such. And you can use that, you can say, oh, well, I want to leave it straight without, I guess, movement or character, but you can put a wire on that, gin very easily, and create a bit of movement through it, which will give you what you want with the gin, because you do want the gin to mimic movement as well, so you don't really want a gin not to be too unrealistic. So there's nothing wrong with getting a wire, like this 3mm wire for instance, and putting it on the gin itself and shaping the gin. You would do this obviously after you've painted with lime sulphur, but for the sake of tonight, I'll show you how easy it is to put a wire on the gin. the gin in whatever position you're bending. If it's not thick enough, you obviously have used wire that's too thin, you just need to either double it up again or use another wire on it. So,
Will it take longer to set because you've essentially killed it, or?
no, it's dead, branch is dead now, so I want the sap to dry out. So hence the reason I want that to dry out. I want that to look like a real lightning struck piece of the tree. So you can see there, I'll leave that on and decide whether I do or don't necessarily want that effect. Again, all over the tree where I've got little pieces, you can create your gins, you can create your effect by simply using carving tools or crushing the bark and then getting a little carving knife out or carving tool. For the bigger gins, you obviously need carving tools, particularly for quite thick, strong bark and strong trunks of wood. Particularly if you go grab a shari or something that's quite spectacular, you'll need the carving tools to do it, and then you need to have a bit of practice with how to do that and create that. Because it's not easy to carve convincingly. Again, you just, if you want to shape your gin, now's the time to shape it. You can't shape it when it's dry, obviously, so you want to put a little wire on it now, while you've got the opportunity. Wire off another branch or however you want to do this, whatever works for you. Generally, I measure the wire off a bit more accurately, so I don't really waste too much of the wire. You need to go at least one turn around the trunk if you're going to use it to bend, manoeuvre, whatever you want to do. If you were to just go around the back of the trunk, when you bend my branch out, it will move. So be warned that if you're going to use wiring to move branches, you need to go at least once around the trunk line itself. Otherwise, the actual gin or the branch that you use to wire won't move as such. So again, you can see here, just a matter of now deciding how many gins you want to create out of a tree, following that same process, treating each gin accordingly, and then trying to get some, I guess, some moving through and such.
How many times you cut yourself with that tool?
Not much yet.
Alright.
One of the tricks is to keep your hand, free hand, well away from the tool, because it is razor sharp. As you can see how quickly it's stripping the bark, it is not blunt, it is razor sharp. So if you do put your hand anywhere near that, you need to be very, very careful, because you will cut your hand open right to the bone easily as such. So yeah, be very careful when using carving tools.
Do you use like power tools and Dremels and stuff like that?
Yes. Again, be careful, because Dremels, power tools. Dremels aren't too bad. Dremels are great because they don't have as big a kick as what a die grinder will. It's the kick that's the problem. What I mean by kick is when you're using a power tool, if it bites into something, it does a runner on you. And if you're not ready for it, it'll do a runner and either cut you or it'll rip half the tree off that you didn't want it to rip off. So you've got to be very careful, even if you are carving, that you go slow and that you go slowly with it as well, because it is a you can't put it back on again once you've taken it off, so you just need to be a little bit wary when you are carving. What I'm doing here is I'm just going to thin out these branches before I actually start to prune them back. There's very heavy on foliage on the very tips, so what I'm doing is I'm just looking at what's on them and getting rid of the parts that I don't want anymore. Bearing in mind that I'm reducing foliage, because I'm going to actually reduce these foliage pads in the end very heavily when I'm just looking for ones that are going vertically as to whether I can twist them around. So if there's an opportunity for the ones going there vertically, if I can twist the whole branch around and bring them horizontally and make advantage of that type of branch structure to suit what I want as such. Now the most boring part of bonsai is wiring. Unfortunately, there's no getting around it. There's no making it any more exciting or any less exciting than what it is. It takes time to wire, and it takes time to see the result for the wire as well. So, you know, if you don't like wiring, you better get used to it.
I've seen people use zip ties as well, pull branches together.
Yeah,
is that sort of non-traditional? But
it's a non-traditional method, but if it gets a result that you're happy with, be careful though, because the branch swells and you've got to watch the zip tie. I mean, one of the biggest problems with wiring a tree is as the tree grows, the wire doesn't expand. So you've really got to be careful with trees that are wired heavily, like that one for instance, that you watch the wire and you're on top of the wire. Because if you say, I don't want wire marks on my tree, it's very important that I don't have wire marks, then you need to be very diligent with any tree you've wired. You're wiring, unwiring. Trees will constantly try and right themselves or straighten after you may have changed the direction. The only reason I wire a tree, the only reason I ever wire a tree is not because it has to have wire on to be a bonsai. That's a myth, because someone once actually said to me, do you wire a bonsai because that's the secret of dwarfing it? And sometimes people look at something and if they don't understand it, they'll grasp for reasons. You wire a tree because you want to change the direction of the growth of whatever part of the tree you're wiring. So if it's the trunk, it's because you want to change the direction of the trunk. So you want to put some movement in the trunk. It might be a dead straight trunk and you want to put some curves and twists in it. If you're wiring the branches, it's because the branch tips are not growing where you want them to be and you want to straighten them out and give them some character. Maybe put some movement in the actual branch tips as well. So there are reasons for wiring. It's not something you have to do because that's what's required to do on a bonsai tree. So I wire trees constantly because I'm constantly changing the direction of the tree. When you're refining your design, you're constantly changing it. As your eye gets better and better, you will look at your trees in a different light, and you'll want to then wire the trees to bring them back to where you believe they should be or not be. So the better your artistic eye becomes, direction is not being where you want it to go, and you'll want to change it as such. So the better your artistic eye becomes, the more you're going to wire, whether you like it or not. Because your eye looks at it, it's drawn to it, says, I don't like the direction where that's going. You've got no choice but to wire it then to change it. That tree, when I first did it about a year and a half ago, the branches had no direction, they were all over the place. So I had to put the wire on to actually control where I wanted everything to go, to control the direction where everything had to go as such as well. So it had to be put on the tree to get the effect. That tree will be on wire most of its life, or on and off wire. There'll be times where I'll take the wire off to give it a rest because it keeps biting in, because I'm neglecting it because I've got too many trees. And that's another problem you need to be careful of. Here's some sniggers in the back. When I say I've got too many trees, everyone says, up to it. Says, how many trees you got? 50 to 90. So it is very easy to wind up with too many trees. And then it becomes very difficult for you to maintain the trees in any form of, I guess, artistic design that you like, because you're forever doing something to one of them or to the other one. So it is very easy to have wind up with far too many trees. So don't be careful. It happens to the best of us. Then you have a clean out. And that's quite interesting to go through too. Because clean outs don't always work. So here's some people here that have been through it before. This is a great job for an upcoming apprentice.
This is a cool technique to put the loop on your arm. Is that sort of...
Yes, this is technique 101. I've got
Okay.
the patent for it, so I don't do it without my permission.
Alright.
It's just keeps it out of the way. Believe it or not, I'm trying to minimise the waste because wire is costly enough. I mean, it's not worth a fortune, but it's costly enough. And yes, you can measure out the wire, add a third to account for the turns around the tree. You should be right, but I'm actually trying to use the exact amount of wire.
The little offcuts, do you do anything with those? Do you, no.
Go to the bin, go to the great wire, have it in somewhere. You can keep a few of them, because occasionally you might want to make something from them. Pointer for the front, or just a free present for a friend. Piece of wire. If you've got a wire back, you can make a mesh, but you get, because that's pretty thick to make a mesh, and that's a pretty big mesh thing to make. But typically, if it's as big as this, you can roll it around your finger, or roll it around a piece of dowel, and you can create and make little meshes for your wire. Again, depending on the extent of how big the hole is, and then you'll make a little mesh like this, and then you can hold, as you said, a big pot, big hole, straight in, bend over the mesh. It will hold the mesh in to the bottom pot. So yeah, anything that's big enough you can use like that. Particularly if you can't bear to throw things out as such. That happens to the best of us at some stage. As such. Now the problem with this tree is that I need to wire every single branch right out to the tips so that I can control where the direction of each branch is going as such. So you don't have enough time to do that, as you can imagine. It takes hours to wire a tree properly. Then to go through each individual branch and wire each individual branch out as such. So it does take quite a time to successfully wire out trees like this. So obviously it doesn't make a very good demonstration if I stand here for the next 2 hours and wire this tree and you'll sit there going, gee, that was exciting. So a tree like this, I don't think I'm going to finish it as such. I'm certainly going to run you through the concept of what I'm trying to achieve and then thin it down a little bit so you can understand. You've all been doing this long enough to, I guess, to have in your head to understand what's going on as such. And imagine what the finished product would be as such.
On the video it actually looks quite good, even though it's sort of long and laborious, but when you're not talking I usually speed it up.
Yeah.
And you actually see like the hand movements and you can see what you're achieving, like it's much...
Oh, it's good. That's good then. Because it is, it's a very laborious, slow task to run through as such. As much as I can wire as fast as I can, it still physically takes time to get around the whole tree. Wire the tree. Generally, if you wanted to go to low, you'd half wire the whole tree out in such a way you wouldn't tell that I've wired it, and then you just put a few lengths of wire on the tree in places, and then you'd start to work on bringing the branches down into positions as such.
So I see you sort of moving through the tree, removing clutter and then
Yes.
wiring down, and then when they're in their positions then you choose,
Yes.
you're thinning your pads,
Yes.
that's the method?
Exactly. That's what I would do. I would select, once I've got the branches widened down, I then wire out the individual pads and then start selecting what I want to keep. Because potentially I don't know exactly what I want to keep until I get to that point where I'm at each branch wide and each branch set out as such. So particularly all of these have got foliage on the very tips, and when you see them reduced back to very little, the effect is quite startling. But again, I can't do that until I get each individual branch wide, so I'll just wire a couple of ones.
Is that because like you're maybe pointing down now, but when you flatten it out, and then it's okay?
Yeah, because I want to point it down, flatten them out, and then concentrate on the foliage on the very ends and tips. Because generally what I would do is I would probably reduce each branch to 2, reduce each tip to 2, and wire it out as such. It would take 4 hours just to wire this tree normally, from tip to toe, to be able to then position the branches where we want them to be. So as you can imagine, 4 hours is a long time for you to sit there patiently. That was exciting. So we're not going to sit here and wire the whole tree for 4 hours. It's just not fair to you guys either. Sit here and watch me painfully go through 4 hours of wiring and such. So I'll just do a couple of just strategic branches just to bring it down so you can see the effect I'm trying to create. What I'm doing now is just, for the sake of not boring you too much with this one particular thing, is I'm just now looking at all the tufts that are on the end of the branches here, and I'm pinching everything that's grown vertically down off. I'm just leaving on the tufts most of the horizontal growth that I can work with. And now what will happen in this tree, also this tree will spasmodically bud back on old wood. And if you don't believe me, you can come and have a look and see where it has been doing it over the last growth cycle, where it actually has spasmodically grown on some of the old wood, particularly in amongst the branches itself. So all I'm doing is I'm just grabbing the stuff that's underneath and just pulling it off. You can see here, these things grow in tufts. If you have a look, you'll see. They're very similar to that branch there. They're tufts. And you see that there's a mess at the end of each branch is just tufts of foliage. And what I'm doing is I'm sorting out those tufts of foliage and concentrating on the little ones, the tiny little ones that are growing out.
Is that because you're starting back from like single branch then to 2, and then you want to then make it more complex?
Yes, so what I'll do is I'll start from here, I'll move out to 2, to 2, to 2, to 2, all the way out to the very tips. So as I get out towards the tips, I can start to see which ones I'm going to keep in the future, which ones I'm not going to keep. So I'm actually, will strategically go through the tree and start to reduce everything back to 2s. And I apply that philosophy in everything, all bonsais that I have. As such. get involved in the running, I won't test the resolve. This is the patent technique, in case you're wondering. Okay. That's it. I'll go any further. I'll have to sit here and microwire, but you can see all I've done is taken at least 60, maybe 50+% of the foliage off, at least. Reduce the mass, which is where your eyes are going, which is the foliage. And I've tried to now make the structure of the branches as much the track for your eye as what the foliage was. So I guess what I'm trying to do is create the illusion that the trees are actually older than what they really are. So I'm trying to use everything I've got as an illusion tool to work hand in hand. I wanted to tuck the second tree up, place it here to the main tree itself. I'll work with these branches and micro wire some of these branches down a bit as well, because they're only some of these spots. And now I really need to go out and wire all the little branches and put them exactly where I want, and then you'll get the effect, or the full 100% effect. What we've got now is probably 75% of what the tree can look like. If you remember what it looked like before we started, compared to what it now, I don't know, do you think it looks older now?
Yeah.
Does it look better than what it was? So it's improved a lot more.
It's got more flow.
You can now watch this. Yeah, you can see the flow now. So you can, the trunks haven't been moved, but you can see them now. So you can see the direction that they're actually heading. So the tree as an overall composition is a bit more balanced. Pot could be better, but in time the tree will refine. And yeah, the tree potentially will regrow again very fast. It will lose its shape very quickly too. So I still, at some stage, will have to go back over the tree, look at what does and doesn't need to be just repaired on the tree, wired, etc. So the tree's still going to need constant tweaking. So don't think that this, I've done this now, my job is over, I don't need to tweak the tree anymore ever again. The tree's control, or life of being controlled, is only just beginning as such. So you will be doing this sort of stuff on a not regular basis, but be prepared to do this occasionally to your trees to improve, I guess, the overall look of the tree as such. And just, I guess, improve what you've got as an artistic statement. Because you've got to remember that for some of us, it's as much about art as what it is about growing a tree in a container. So for some people that I know of, they're attracted to bonsai not because they're horticultural people that love horticulture. They're attracted because they're actually artists, and they see bonsai as a living piece of art. And they like the fact that they can recreate a piece of living art.
So how long would you expect that while you put on tonight to stay on there?
Until it bites in. That could be 6 months, that could be 12 months, that could be 2 years. It'll be dictated by how quickly this tree regrows. But a tree like this, juniper of this age, could stay for a couple of years. As long as it's not biting in, and then I'll cut it all off and remove. But I'll watch the wire. I'm going to wire out all the little tips out here and wire the tree properly and give it what I know it needs to have as well. But you can leave it safely at least a year. And only because the tree's old, it's not a young tree. If this was a young, vigorous tree, you might be leaving the wire only on for 6 months. You've got to watch the branches that you wire. And as the wire starts to bite into the branches, then that's when you've got to remove it as such. So keep an eye on the wire. You see the wire's done nothing really, apart from look like it's strangling the tree. It's always being trying to manipulate where the branches are, the position of where they're growing, and the effect that I want them to, I guess, to have as such. So, yeah, that's that. I think I'll leave that there. Hopefully that inspires you to go back and say, well, let's have a look at what I've got and see if I really want to improve it. You can do this with any tree. It doesn't have to be a juniper. It can be a Chinese elm, it can be a fruit tree, it can be that little beast in here, it can be a melaleuca. The principle's the same. Get a balance between the structure of the tree and its foliage. Grow your trees on with that in mind too. I brought this in here just to quickly show you. I see a lot of people growing trees on nursery containers. I say to people, how many bonsai trees you got? I've got 50 and 100 in nursery containers. So they go down and find a little plant, they buy it like this in a little 6 or 12 inch, 8 inch pot. And they buy the tree itself. So even if you're buying trees, work on them in the pots. Don't just let it go crazy and then go back and go, oh, where do I start? It's all too hard. This is a simple Chinese almond cutting that I got off a friend of mine who just let them all go. There's a whole heap of them. I cut them back to the basic structure. All I've been doing is just click and growing them in the plastic container. So that it's the only other thing you might do is something like this is you might grow them in slightly more compact containers so that the root ball reduction is not as severe. Particularly in conflict and genetics, they don't like a huge root ball reduction, whereas these are a little bit more forgiving of what it is. But you let it grow out like this, it's tip growth, you let it grow out, and then throughout its growth cycle, you just come back and you cut the tree. Cut it bad is better than not cutting it at all. If you want to be fanatical, and you want to take 2 hours to prune a tree like this, go back, go to every leaf bud and cut it off at the leaf bud that's pointing in the direction you want the new growth to grow, because that's where the new leaf will grow. But if you don't care, you just come along and treat it like a hedge. So if you don't want to sit here for hours and prune a tree, you just treat it like a hedge. You just gently go over it. You can even use hedging shears if you're skilled enough. I've used hedging shears before to prune plants growing like this, particularly if I've got a row of about 60 odd. Yes, it might be good, but don't be scared if you quite adapt with a hedging shear and like that. Or if you've just got a few of these, you can just come along throughout its growth cycle, let it have a flush of growth, so let it grow a bit, and then come along and then cut it back roughly to where you want it to be, so don't let it get too much of a run on. And then when the time comes that you either want to put it into a bonsai container, or you want to sell it on to somebody who wants to use it for a bonsai tree, it's a lot better finished. It has a higher value from a retail value as well, and it looks, to all intents and purposes, it's actually a bonsai tree already. It's contained a bit of wire to refine it, and there it is, a tiny little cutting that was just clip and grow. Clip to where the direction I want it to grow, and then let grow, and clip again. Very easy to do with deciduous trees. This is why I love these Chinese elm trees. They are best trees to grow without putting a lot of work in. Tiny little leaf, beautiful just ramification. A sub-branch development very quickly, and you can get a really nice little tree very quickly. Whether the tree's a little one like this, or my big elms are right up here. Either way, you still get that beautiful little tree. So anything with small leaves works really well. Larger leaf trees, obviously you've got to practice certain reduced techniques. You want to grow figs, then you really need to understand how to reduce the size of your fig leaf, because figs have traditionally got large leaves, particularly more base and things like that. So if you're going to grow figs, then you need to understand the best way to get the leaf size down when you're growing your trees. These don't need much understanding other than a regular clip. They're naturally small leaf, and they really dwarf really quickly. As I've always said, the secret to getting the leaf size down on a plant is to increase the amount of branches on it, so that you spread the energy over more of the tree. The more of the branches that are on this tree, the smaller the leaf will be, because it's more balanced, there's lots more of the tree for it to spread the energy. If you've got a little 1-year-old seedling, of course it's going to have huge big leaves, because there's not much structure yet, so don't expect a 1 to 6-year-old seedling to have tiny little leaves. It's not going to happen. It's too young, doesn't have enough structure in it yet. As they structure and mature like this, then you'll get that reduction in leaf size. So don't go out and buy a bonsai tree and go, I've got to have smaller leaf size. Wait for it to age. I know it's probably not your 1 or 2 some cases, but if you're going to grow large leaf trees, then you're going to have to wait for them to age, wait for them to set lots more structure, to spread the energy of the tree out over as such. So keep that in the back of your mind. Feed them well. Really feed them well. Don't just feed them when you think of it, feed them well. Organics, liquids, sea salts, whatever you happen to have. Give them plenty of food, they'll respond. These will let you know if they're not happy, particularly if they're not fed well, they'll discolour very quickly. So a healthy tree is in a lot better position to fight disease, okay? Particularly the various diseases that are out there that are affecting cypress pine trees, cypress conifers and pines and things like that. If the tree's healthier, it's in a lot better condition to actually fight an attack of fungus or mites or such and such. So don't be scared to feed the trees up. Just prune them. I teach you nothing tonight. Prune badly, impress is not ready at all. Okay, and then you'll get a step up. You can see how easy that was? So get out there, have a look at your trees. If you've got junipers that are just too full with foliage and you're not sure how to do it, reduce them back. You'll get your line back onto the tree, and then you can start to pinch out the pads. And then be prepared to do this to your junipers and to your conifers. Period for its life. Otherwise it becomes too heavy. A lot of people say, oh, it may die. You say, no, it won't die. Feed it well, it's going to grow back ferociously. Particularly if I root prune even more so. But these trees grow slow in the root system, so they don't need root pruning near as much as deciduous trees do. So that probably gets root pruned every 5 years if I'm lucky, because it grows very slow compared to a deciduous tree that grows very fast. And remember, the younger the tree, the more you're going to have to root prune, because the faster it's growing, the faster the roots are growing. Roots need to mimic the top of the tree for it to be healthy. So healthy roots equal healthy colour and healthy tree. I think I've exhausted your brains for a small hour and a half, I hope. Don't know whether anyone's got any questions or thoughts.
Thanks so much.
Fantastic. Thanks.
We've got some housekeeping.
Yes.
So, where do I start tonight in thanking you?
At the beginning, I always say, it's a good place to start. It's actually it's a very easy thing to talk in front of a group of people who are already part of the subject matter that you're going to talk about. There is no easier audience to talk to than an audience that already appreciates what you're talking to them about. So I'm already preaching it to the converted. So this is the easiest gig in town. Trust me.